Today, I have this Athearn Bluebox Burlington route GP35 with some sort of issue, and I need to fix it. So to start, let's test this thing out. Last I recall, this thing was seized. I'm not sure if that's still true, but we've got to test the thing out anyways. I'll give it a little bit of power. Sounds like that might still be the case. Actually, it started moving a little bit. So now it's no longer seized, so that does not sound good. Let's try it the other way. That really doesn't sound good. So I'm thinking maybe one of the trucks is moving, maybe one of them isn't. Whatever is going on, there's definitely something wrong with the driveline of this model, so I definitely need to open it up and take a look. So clearly there's something wrong with this locomotive, I don't know exactly what, but before we tear into this thing, I do just want to go around this model a little bit. The shell on this thing looks to be in really nice condition. All the handrails are painted, they're all nice. Everything on the shell looks to be nice, except for right here. This is something I've noticed on a lot of these Blue Box engines. The ones with these little posts, sometimes the clip will break. So maybe when I'm done, I'll just have to secure that with a little bit of canopy glue or something. Not the end of the world. But other than that, it looks to be in good condition. This is also an earlier Blue Box because it doesn't have the bearings on the wheels here, and it's got the silver flywheels instead of the typical like brass gold looking ones. So with that out of the way, it's time to take the shell off this thing. It should be nice and simple just because there's no clip on the other side. And off it goes. And I think I see one, maybe two problems right off the bat. So for one, there's nothing connected to this rear drive shaft at all. There's the little post here, and there should be a coupling that goes right on here. It's completely gone. Actually, that might be it right there. I think that's the part that's supposed to go on there. It was just kind of sitting next to there, which is odd. And it looks like, if I bring this in close, it looks like it might actually be cracked. Yeah, I think you might be able to see it. There's a fracture line right through there. So that's probably why it seemed like only one truck was getting power. And I've also noticed that this metal bar seems to be very close to those flywheels. It kind of feels like it's contacting one of them. I'm not entirely sure, but that makes a good excuse for me to get rid of this bar and instead replace it with a nice wire. So before I go crazy tearing into this thing, just cleaning everything up, I want to see if I can repair these issues before we give the thing a full service. So I took a little dig through my parts bin to see if I could find a new shaft just like this one, and I couldn't find any, so I went through my worm gears and I actually found one that'll work right here. This one has a slightly different connector here, but it's got all the components we'll need, so to test it out, I'm just going to swap out the worm gear right there, the original one. But while I was going through these, I found another different worm gear. This one also has the exact same issue. I'll take this one off right here, and as you can see, this one is also cracked all the way through. So maybe it's just a common failure on these. I don't know if this part came from a parts locomotive or I took it out of the model because it had the same issue, but I don't really recall this being an issue on another past model, which is kind of weird. Just to see if that solves our issue, I'm going to take this worm gear cover off, take the old one out of here. Hopefully this new shaft lines up with the old part. Then I can just set it in there like so. Then don't worry, I will come back and clean this out in the near future. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. But for now, I'm just going to put the worm gear cover back on here. And next up, I'm going to tackle replacing this bar because this thing being bent out of shape gives me a good reason to just replace it with a fresh wire. Before we go soldering new wires to that, I just want to clean up these contacts just to make them nice and clean. As you can see, this bar is really warped out of shape, and we definitely can't use that. So I want to get these cleaned up to make a good surface for my solder to connect to, and then we can just put a fresh pair of wires on here. Typically, I'd go straight into tearing down these trucks, but just to make sure this resolved our issue, I want to give this thing a really quick test run, then we'll come in and give this thing a good teardown. Alright, time for a very brief test run. I just want to make sure this thing isn't making any horrible noises, and it's actually moving with both of its trucks now. Seems good forwards, and it seems good backwards. That's also a lot quieter, but it can still be better once I give it a good teardown and cleanup. Before I tear these trucks down, I have to undo some of the work that I just did. Sure, I could have done this later on in the video, but I wanted to make sure this thing ran before tearing everything down and putting it back together, so I've got to unsolder both of these wires just on that end and resolder them later so we can tear apart these trucks. Now that that's done, I'll start with the front truck, which is a little bit more difficult to get to. It's just because this one bar with the headlights in the way, but it is still not the worst thing I've ever experienced when working on a model. And just like that, we can pop the truck right out of this thing, and now we can actually tear it apart. It just has this one little clip up here. It's got this one big plate on the bottom, which I need to unclip from both sides. Then I can just drop the wheels out of this thing, and the entire truck assembly comes apart. Well, everything in here does look pretty clean. I don't think cleaning it up further and then giving it some fresh oil will hurt anything, so I'll do that. So the front truck is now back in the locomotive and all put back together. Now it's time to move on to the back half of the model and tackle this rear truck. So both of those trucks have been cleaned up and given fresh oil, but there's still a couple more things to do before we're completely done with this model. For one, these wires need to get resoldered back on. That's pretty simple to do. I just got the soldering iron reheated, so we can do that in just a second. I need to clean off the commutator, give the bearings and the commutator itself just a tiny amount of oil, and then I do want to replace this rear coupler because it's not very springy. Usually I'd throw on Katie's. I'm out of them right now, so we're just going to use another old horn hook for the time being. So next up, it's time to put oil on these bearings. Then on the commutator, this is something I know a lot of people disagree with, but I found specifically on blue boxes and some other very specific motor types, just the tiniest film of oil can actually help performance. So I'm not even going to put a crazy amount on there. Just like that is going to be way more than enough. I might even take just a little bit of that off in a second, but that's about all I do. It works just fine on blue box models from my experience. There's a lot of engines that I definitely won't put oil on the commutator for, but these are ones that I think putting just a tiny drop like that, maybe even a little less than that on, can be a huge help. Second to last, I'm going to put this coupler on the rear of the model. All I need to do is nice and simply remove that cover, take the old one out, and then plop the new one in just like so. And then I think all I have to do is to put the shell right back on the model, and we can go give it a very quick test run. Now, after all those new repairs and that good cleanup I gave this model, let's see if it still runs. That was reversed, but that seems really smooth. Let's try running it forwards. And for an old blue box, I think that's really good. After all that work, I think this GP35 turned out pretty well. Sure, I could do a little bit more, and before anyone continues to comment about oiling the commutator on this thing, I'll clean it again in 6 months. That's about what I do for every single model that I put any oil on the commutator of, so it gets proper maintenance, and with that, I've never had any issues. So this model should be good to last me a long time, even though it's an old blue box.